stands for health, excellence, and wealth. The reason I want to make sure that we have wealth at the start of this conversation is the wording and the language I'm going to use. We are very aware that managing money, and when we're talking about, we're going to talk a lot about words in terms of budgets, that language can very easily turn to a negative, and it can feel like restriction, it can feel like the fun police, and we cannot say this enough. We are the opposite of the fun police. I tell you what we are though, we came up with this one the other day, a few coffees in. We want to be the frustration police. That's what we're trying to remove for you all, and for ourselves. And the big thing that we want to make sure that we get across at every point is, myself and Helen have both learned this stuff, not just from doing it well, but also from getting it really bloody wrong. There was a way that it got explained to me years ago that stuck with me, is that your mess becomes your message. So often the message that you portray and the message that you're getting out there has to be the mess that you've gone through. I was an entrepreneur from a very young age. I earned a lot of money, or generated a lot of income very early on, and could easily have, pissed it all up a wall and, been Lindsay Lohan on acid. Pleased to say I wasn't, but I certainly didn't make the best of the income that I had at a time. I have then been employed, and so I really do know both sides of it and how it goes in terms of not being in full control of earnings, bonuses, expenses, all of that stuff that comes with it. We do predominantly work with people who are entrepreneurs, but I know there's a mix of people on this webinar who are employed, freelancers, self-employed, thinking about starting a business, kind of dipping their toe into doing a side hustle, whatever it may be. The language that we'll use during the course of the next 40-50 minutes, we will always refer to your business. And if you're employed, I want you to understand this, I'm still talking to you, because you as an individual are the MD of you. You are the CEO of your life, of your business, everything that goes with it. So please don't hear when I say your business and exclude that from your mind. You're the driver, it's you first. One of our biggest missions, as we talk about, is it all starts and ends with you. You're the biggest asset in your business, you're the biggest asset in your life, you are the income producer, you are the value. We are also often the biggest negative, the biggest risk, and the biggest bottleneck. So when we talk about you first, we're saying it, as I said before, not from a dagger in the heart kind of way, but it all starts and ends with you. Okay, bit of a one for you to understand. As I said, take as many images as you like. We'll try and get our double chins and all the lockdown calories in the right position if you're doing it. Share and tag away. Our incentive for you is this. Both me and Helen are avid readers and have learned a lot through books. What we were going to do, we did this on the last webinar and we had a hoot. We've got 3 prizes for any social media tags. We do it, we don't even get bribed. We properly put it into a generator and get it picked out. I'm going to pick one of my favourite financial books. Helen's going to pick one of her favourite financial books. And we're giving away a free place to the workshop, which we're running in 7 or 8 days' time. Okay? So all we ask is share it on social media, tag us, be more inventive, the better. We've had some dog pictures. We love a little bit of a dog picture. Okay. Helen, is the attending room closed? Are we ready to hammer on full? Yeah. Okay. Simple objectives for the next 45-50 minutes. We want to talk through the practicalities of money management. So we all make money. We all spend money. Some of us have had more money at times and less money at times. And I know it's something that I've heard said a million times. Why don't they teach this stuff in schools? Why did our parents not teach us this? And you might have good or bad lessons from the people in the environment that you grew up with, the businesses that you've been in, the companies that you've worked for. But there's a big difference between knowing and doing. Okay, so our objective is really go through some practicalities. We do want to identify your responsibilities. I have given the cat out of the bag there when I talked about you first. We are I know there's people on here who are in business partnerships. I know there's lots of people here who are in partnerships with their other half. And it's funny because money and finances is possibly one of the most avoided topic of conversations in the world. When I speak to both my businesses are involved in financial services and financial coaching and conversations, I honestly, people would rather go to the doctors for a full naked examination than talk about their bank, and to talk about their credit score, and to talk about their investments, and to talk about how many messes and how many mistakes they've made. So we just really want to make sure you understand we get that. And it's not about when we talk about your responsibilities, it's not from a headmaster position or from a holier than thou position. It's just your responsibility, because no one's coming to save you. Punchline. There we go. And we want you to gain confidence and clarity of financial structure for you, your business, personal and individual. Okay, over to you, H.
Thank you. Sorry, I was still on housekeeping then. Just being my little or being your little admin bitch. Thank you, everyone. I've not met quite a lot of people on here, so it's great to see everyone for the first time. And yeah, I'll just rock straight into this so that I don't mess up any of the flow. Lauren's just done a grand job of introducing there and getting things into the mix. We've got quite a lot to run through, so I will get my little wriggle on. Managing your money then. It's not actually all about money, believe it or believe it not. So before you check out and think, well, I'm in here for a money webinar, you are in the right place, but it's not just all about managing your money. It is about, Lauren, managing your emotions, managing your focus, managing your goal, managing your excuses, because we have plenty of those, managing your fear, and finally, managing your challenges. Because to manage our money, we have to be aware of all of the above. Because when there's money, there's emotion, okay? Where there's focus, there is money management. Where there's a goal, we know what we're aiming for. Where there's excuses, it prevents us from getting what we want. Or if we've got what we want, it prevents us from keeping it, retaining it, making more from it. And when there's fear, again, that stops us. When there's challenges, it's like a thorn in the side and a bump in the road that stops us from moving forward. So understanding all of those areas help you manage your money. So that's what I mean about it's not just about money, it's more than all of that. And this is where all of your mindset comes into it, your personal development and everything else that you can apply then into the management of your money. Okay. What gets measured gets managed. This is one of Lauren's famous sayings, and it's one that we've covered quite a lot of times. But if you've heard it here for the first time, remember this. Write it down. Stick it on a post-it note and put it on your desk, on your laptop, on your screensaver. What gets measured gets managed. So the scary thing here is the things that you can see on this checklist: your weight, the speed at which you drive at, your battery on your phone, the supply management at work, for example, your stationery cupboard or whatever it may be of your supplies, what's in your fridge, the food contents of your fridge, your time, where are you spending your time, what's in your diary, how is your calendar and your schedule looking, your fitness, that could be, you're knocking out a 10K and wanting to beat your time. Or you may be measuring then, your measurements of like your biceps or your waist or anything in that respect. And then the last one, the likes on your social media. And don't tell me that you don't gauge it. All of those areas, we ironically measure more than we measure our money. And especially if it's the last one, where on earth is that then the priority? If we're focusing more on being quite religious about managing the stock and the food element of our fridge, or keep gauging and scrolling through our socials, so like, oh yeah, who's watched my video, who's liked, who's commented. If we have got more priority and more focus over that, we're measuring that, we're managing it, aren't we? We put in that focus into it. We need to get ahead then and start measuring and managing our money, and this is what it's all about. What is your goal? Okay, I've just covered this in tonight's live at 5, so any of you that's not seen that, please do revisit it, because this is just a little bit of a whistle-stop tour around all of this. Understanding your goal is basically then knowing why you're doing something. It's not just a case of saying, do you know what, yeah, sounds good to have another 10 grand this month or another 10 grand this like half of the year or whatever it is. But what's the meaning behind it? Be clear on the why of what you want to do. Okay, and when there's a why behind it and an actual reason and a purpose, we become emotionally attached to it. That emotional attachment, go back 2 slides when we said it's about managing your emotion. That emotional attachment then becomes your anchor. And you will hear us referring to your emotional anchor or your goal anchor. And that is literally so that it's anchored into the seabed and it ain't moving anywhere. It is keeping you where you want to be so that you are on track for what you've said that you want to achieve. Okay, and I just want to say here as well on the be clear on your why. People often say, particularly in business, particularly in, you know, when you're starting off on your goal setting journey, is you'll hear it a lot from business owners and new entrepreneurs, is that understand your why. And it's normally family, it's normally children, it's normally wanting to leave a legacy. However, I don't know how many people on here have got a family, but I don't. So does that count me out of the equation? No, not at all. You don't need family or kids or babies or whatever in that equation to be clear on your why and it have purpose for you, because it's what you want to achieve. And going back to what Lauren said as well about the HEW #YouFirst, is irrelevant of who your why and what your why is, you need to look after number one so that you've got what you want, so that you're in a position to then be able to spread the wealth and share the wealth through to other people, whether it's down through your family members, whether it's to help other people in the community, whether it's charitable causes or anything. Okay, but it's understanding what it means to you, giving it purpose, giving it that attachment, and then linking all of that from your mind to your heart to your gut and back again. Okay, and that is the pure purpose behind it all. Once you understand that, it gives it so much more meaning behind it. Okay, I've said on here, sorry Lauren, just flick back one second. I've just said on here about reflection, right? What we want to say here is always go back before we go forward. However, going back is not a place of residence. We don't want to put the guilt trip on you here in terms of saying, yeah, I've always been shit with my money and, you know, I'm in a pretty poor state of affairs right now. Okay, that's fine, but we acknowledge it, we own it, and we move forward from it. We don't stay in the past and we don't stay in the current. We appreciate the current and we take ownership of the current, but we are all for moving forward. Okay, so then it's at this point then when we've got that full understanding and ownership of the current situation that we plan forward and take action. Okay, don't leave it to chance. I'm not saying here that you need to, you know, have some magical £100,000 six-figure earner that's your goal. Start small. However small it is to you, it is still your goal and it is still the purpose and your why behind it. It is about getting started, okay? Not it being a big grand goal that seems overwhelming to you right now.
Sorry, H was a bit trigger happy there. I was like, we're on. Okay, so let's get into the nitty gritty. Income versus outgoing. So this is a bit that I'm sure all of you were expecting. You're like, Lauren, and you know what? Anyone who's worked with me in any pre-source, I like to look at an Excel sheet. She's got to crack one out at some point. Here's the thing to understand, whether you are an individual, whether you are a business, whether you are a partnership, whatever way you're looking at it, is that we all have incomings and we all have outgoings. How we work with them is very much how it's going to, that's how it's going to affect, you know. One of the things that I was taught very early on in my entrepreneurial roles was it actually doesn't matter how much money you have. You know, and again, we spoke on the webinar a few weeks ago about mindset. You know, people say, you know, more money, more problems. You know, if I had this much money, you know, it just caused me too much stress. I'm like, give me that problem, I'll deal with that one. You know, send it over this way. People thinking about, you know, money doesn't make you happy. But I tell you what, having none of it can certainly make you unhappy. And we do all need a certain amount, regardless of what our goals are. But if you want to be able to run a business, you have to be able to run yourself. So if you want to run a business, run yourself first. And whether that be a business that you own, a business that you're a head of department, whether you are a leader in industry, run yourself, run your business. So I want to start chatting through income and outgoing. So if you have a fixed income or a variable income, depending on your role within your business, you know, again, it depends if you're in your first 6, 12, 18 months or whether you're, you know, a few years in. Have you actually set what your income is? And do you fully understand where that income can change or can alter? So one, for example, that I see, you know, almost weekly is you may take a set wage, but then do you have anything like income tax credits? Do you have child benefits? Do you have, you know, things that come in for your childcare vouchers, all of those things? So when you're looking at managing your money, are you tracking your fixed income and your variable income? The next place I go down here is looking at your fixed monthly expenses, because these are the things that are currently fixed, but that you may want to improve in the future. What we're not going to talk to you about tonight is, we're not Martin Money Lewis, and we're not going to talk to you about getting 20 quid off your gas bill and, looking for the best APR on your credit card or your business loans or grants or anything like that. But what we all know is when we do have fixed expenses, they're only fixed for as long as we keep them the same. The next one down there is your variable but reoccurring expenses. So have you labelled them in this, and do you know what those are in your business and in your life? So if there's some expenses, the easy one to start with here in a personal situation might be your food bill. So, in case of it's a variable expense. It depends on, the cost of food at this current time. It depends, we're all in lockdown. I think everyone's food bills have shot up, 20, 30%, because cooking every meal at home, Jesus Christ, I didn't realise how much I didn't want to do that in life. But making sure that you have a clear understanding of what your variable expenses are that reoccur. Next one down here, personal expenditure. And this is very important in business as well as in your personal life. Because your personal expenditure, this comes after fixed monthly cost and variable reoccurring cost. So it's genuinely whatever you need personally. On an individual level, that might be, your haircut. It might be getting your nails done. It might be socializing with your friends. On a business expense, it might be the fact that it's, using a VA because, you want to outsource, you don't want to be doing receipts, and you don't want to be doing bookkeeping and those kind of things. But if that's your personal expenditure, it's a very easy way to start. Is that a want or is it a need? And as you can see there, after needs, it says who. Because often what we think we need, do we really need if push came to the shove? If our goal is clear, if our emotional anchor is clear, do we really need it? Or do we need it because of, is something else propelling us for the need? What I'm trying to say is it something that we're keeping up with the Joneses? I seen a really fun one the other day that's like, stop trying to keep up with the Joneses because the Joneses are broke. The Joneses are all on credit cards. The Joneses are all on hire purchase. The Joneses don't own the bed that they sleep on. But understanding with your personal expenditure, is it a want or is it a need? Okay, next thing in your outgoings, are you planning for any debt repayments? And again, another conversation for another day, but not all debt is negative. The biggest debt that we all have is usually our mortgage, maybe an investment or a company loan. But, there is debt that works positively in our favour versus debt that really doesn't. Whether it be the amount the debt is costing us, whether it's about the amount the debt is anchoring us, whether the amount that debt is the thing that keeps us awake at night, whether that debt is the reason that we're not tracking our incoming and our outgoings. Again, understanding, do we know what the debt is? Do we know the reason for it? And do we know the plan around it? And then the last thing in outgoings is savings and investments. Interestingly that we put it on the last. We probably, psychologically should have put that on first, because what do we all do? What goes into our savings part or our investments is what's left over after our personal expenditure. Let's turn that upside down and go, if our personal goal, is to save 5,000, 10,000, invest 100,000, whatever that number may be. Well, if that's the goal that's driving you, that maybe you're in a position that you don't want to be in right now, but it's pushing you through those challenges, is that in your outgoings column, and is it being tracked and is it being measured? Okay, knowing your leaks. So this is one that every single one of us has to get crunchy and honest with, is that there's going to be leaks everywhere. These are just some examples. This is not us saying they're right or wrong, and it's not our judgment on them. But do you know, are you one big massive colander of money? And is it a case of I just have a very slow leak that's dripping out every week and every month? So identifying in your business where your leaks. So ones that we see a lot with our clients is subscriptions. So again, I'm not saying Netflix all gets cancelled and we're never getting a fruit and veg box again. Because again, if that's in line with your values and in line with your budget, guarantee it means that you're not nipping to Aldi 3 times a week to spend what you thought was a fiver, but it's actually 45 quid. Unnecessary insurances on a personal and on a business level. This is one that I get geekily excited about, because once you really understand how you can be insured well and how to insure yourself against risk in business and in personal life, what money are you putting out in insurances that, A, you don't use, B, you don't claim on, you wouldn't even know how to claim on, and you're not sure if you're double insured. Okay, unused memberships and clubs. So this is similar to subscriptions, but on a business level, have you ever signed up for something like a small business federation? Have you ever signed up for something like a chamber of commerce? If you use it, then it's a great investment. If it brings value to your business or to you as an individual, fantastic. But are you paying for networking clubs or any of these other subscriptions that you did because at the time it felt like a good idea that's never getting used? Same in your personal life. How many of us have signed up to stuff that we thought was a great idea, 3 months in, it's not using it? Okay, another one here is Meeting Mary, who is a very close cousin related to Negative Nancy, which is me and Helen do like to name people, old people's names. If you are leaking money because you're always agreeing to meetings, meeting for that coffee, meeting for that dinner, meeting for that networking, you know, again, it's got to ask yourself, is it a drainer or is it a radiator? Do you get any return on that time? Do you get any return on that investment? Do you get any return on that energy? Or is it because you're meeting Mary and you're saying yes to things because, again, someone else feels that they should, or because we're avoiding something else? Convenience spending, this is something that can cost you an awful lot in business. Have you, forgot to put the order in the time? Are you paying for next day delivery? Are you unable to get leverage or discount on certain things that you're getting supply from because, you need it, so you don't have time to shop around, you don't have time to look? On a personal level, convenience shopping is, I find again and again, is the one that is a massive leak in people's pipes that they're not aware of. Nipping to the Tesco Express, picking up something for dinner on the way home. As I said, it's not the fun police, but if you've got a disposable income in your budget that fits that, then great. But there's nothing more motivating for me when I see someone who goes, I'm just really planned and rigorous. We eat bloody lobster once a week, but it's planned and it's, and it's budgeted and it's there, and it's not something that they pick up where prices are inflated. Okay, and the final one on this leak is knowing your top and bottom limit number. So this is language that it may not make sense at first, but every one of us has a number that we can spend on a top level without any consideration. So I can tell you from my experience, I never used to be able to go into Tesco's, where I grew up in Prestwich, and spend less than 30 quid. Didn't matter what I was buying. It didn't matter if I went in for a bunch of bananas, I would hit 30 quid. Whether it be picking up a bottle of wine, maybe a t-shirt, maybe picking up a bunch of flowers. I had a top limit there. 30 quid, I think. Okay, another one there is knowing your bottom limit. What's the number that you have in your company savings account, on your P&L, personal bank account, that makes you share? Because when you know that top and bottom number, then what you have to learn to do is that number working for me right now? So for example, 30 quid a couple of years ago, I wouldn't have thought twice of it. But now as someone who won't pick up a bottle of wine, I'm like, I struggle to spend 30 quid in Tesco's 3 times a week. So I've changed my upper limit. Same way with my bottom number. I've always had a number that if I'm not on per month or per week, I know I need to get my bum in gear. I really need to move. So know what your number is. It may have triggered for some of you, you're like, I know my number. If you don't know your number, start looking out for it over the next few weeks. Okay. Know your profitable and income generating tasks. Okay. So if anyone's ever read a decent business book, it's one of my favorites. They go, what's your IGT? And I remember listening to this for years and going, I have no idea who IGT is. And it literally stands for what is your income generating task. Okay. So when you look at your proposition, there may be certain products that make you more money. There might be a certain service that you offer that brings you in more revenue. There might be a big one here that lots of people try and avoid is their sales actions. And the reason that we avoid sales actions with our money is because, it's going to hurt us when someone says no, even though we all know, sales conversation for another day. Okay, another one is your expenditure review. And I wanted to hammer in on this one. So especially whether it's business or personal, this is a task that will generate you profit. Because if you don't review your expenditure, how can you ever measure it and how can you ever manage it? But let's take it back onto the business one there, because I know there's people here in many different industries. I like to use the one of a hairdresser because I think it's very easy for people to relate to. Hairdressers do lots of different things. I know they're all opening next week. We've got a couple of hairdressers on. We're all dying to see you. Cutting someone's hair doesn't take any actual product, but it just takes your time. Colouring someone's hair takes your time and it takes a product, and it takes a lot more time. Styling someone's hair takes less time and only a little bit of product. When you work out on your actual services offered, look at it and think, what am I doing that actually produces profit? And am I doing more of that, or do I need to focus on less of that? On a personal level, what tasks do you do that bring money into the family budget or bring into the personal budget? And what tasks do you avoid that stop the leaks going out? So know your profitable and income generating tasks. It's basically knowing what your leaks are, but then also knowing where your flourishes are. We don't just want to talk about negatives. Know what brings you money. And with the risk of sounding a bit fluffy, It's usually the thing that brings you a little bit of fear and a little bit of butterflies in your stomach, but it'll bring you joy when you get over it. Okay, last bit from me here. Know what you need to do, not what you feel like doing, okay? I feel like I deserve a night out. I feel like I deserve a new iPhone. I feel like I deserve insert anything. I feel like I need to be seen to spending on my advertising. I need to be networking and going for business dinners. These are all things that often we feel like we need versus what we really bloody need. And again, when we go back to that original point of if you know what your anchor is, if you know what your goal is, it's not about doing what you feel like, it's doing what you need to get done. And this is where, you know, I said that bit of a sucker punch comes in, is that we are all independent, responsible adults. A lot of us here have chosen to go into business, and we did not choose to go into business. You know what? Let's scrap that. We didn't choose to go into adult life to just survive. We didn't go into adult life just to let somebody else absorb our income or absorb our time or absorb our energy. We did it because we wanted to live and we wanted to thrive. So when you're doing things that you just don't feel like doing, you have to put yourself in that honest and uncomfortable situation, which is that, do I just feel like doing it, or do I know that I need to do it?
Awesome, thanks, Lauren. So finance splits and ratios then, one of my favourite parts. What should you be considering? Do you actually know what your financial split is and your ratios are? Okay, you might, some of you on here, if it's just from a personal perspective, might be thinking, right, okay, now you're losing me. For the business people in the room, you're like, yes, now let's get into the nitty-gritty. Both parties, on both sides of the fence, I have something for you, so do be patient, because I've got a couple of examples coming up. One for how we can consider it from a personal perspective, and one how we can consider it from a business perspective as well. But yeah, do you know yours? Do you know what you should be looking at? Do you know what you should be considering? And what is your best practice? And what I mean here by best practice is, I'm also a business owner in property, and I've got a couple of businesses in property. And in terms of our best practice, I know what I need to be looking at from an industry specific point of view. Okay, so I look at like the gross element of the rent and the income. I look at the split down in terms of, you know, what we've got to consider for outgoings and ongoing management costs and the expenses. I know what I need to be considering in terms of contingencies and who I need to be getting involved in all of that part of outgoings and expenses. Okay, for other industries, you know, Lauren always refers to direct sales and all of the teams there in terms of your responsibilities for looking after your team members and your sales teams for their training and their knowledge and their product performance. Okay, in multi-level marketing, it is your responsibility and your best practice within your multi-level marketing business to be in hold of like the latest product and the latest product launches. It's also your responsibility, your best practice, to have that product knowledge and to be attending all the latest training so that you're up to speed, so that you can start turning that into profit. Okay, so here on the last bit is saying, do you know what gets a result? So your nature of your business, whatever gets the result, that's what you need to be spinning on. You know, like Lauren said, we're not looking at all the negatives, we're looking at the positives. What works, stick to it like freaking glue, and then that is your goal, and that's what you need to be aiming around. The example here then from business, okay? You've got £1,000 worth of gross income from your business. These are the areas, by the way, this is just an example. These percentages aren't gospel, so don't write them down and say, yeah, but Helen said. Okay, Helen's just suggesting, okay, and I'm hoping that there's a lot more than £1,000 worth of gross income as well, but it's just a nice round number that we can work from. Okay, so these are the areas that I want you to consider. So when you hear me speaking about income splits, and there's a couple of my clients on here as well who I work with directly, they'll be familiar with this in terms of income splits. Take the gross figure and start considering all of the financial ratios that you need to be considering that that gross figure has to cover. Okay, so from a business perspective, these are the common grounds that we need to be considering. You've got your fixed costs, so you've got your overheads. That could be business premises, that could be your licenses, your insurances, things like that are fixed costs on a monthly basis that are going out. 20% tax, there's no getting away from that. And if we're understanding of that in advance, we're budgeting for it. Okay, it doesn't come and bite us in the backside as a surprise going, shit, forgot about the corporation tax. Okay, we plan for that in advance from the split up front so that you're taking your tax out each month from that gross income. 10% on business development. Of course, we're going to suggest this because as businesses, you should always be developing. You should always be looking to upskill and always looking to progress it for your business and for all of the assets around it, including yourself. Next up on there, 15% investments. Investments through business. Where can you start diversifying? Where can you start adding value into your business and into your bottom line through investing? And then 25% I've suggested here for your profit. Obviously, we've got to take a profit out of this. We can't just be then, segregating everything off into nice little round pots and saying, oh yeah, that feels good. I've got my 20% tax sorted there, and I've got my BD budget, stacking up nicely there. And at the end of the year, I'm going to be taking myself off on these conferences and coaching and everything else. We're in it. We're in business for profit. Let's not beat around the bush here. Okay, this should be quite a large sum here, which is why we've put it out at 25%. What is your profit margin that you are saying that is what you're covering out of your gross income split? Okay, I've put savings on there as well because again, people in business, and I do the same. I have a pot literally that is just sidelined. I don't even see that until then we start then another 12 months into it. We say, okay, that's not just for investments. It's just like a bit of a slurry pot as well. In terms of what can we best utilize that with? Are we plowing it back into something that needs more expenses to upkeep the property? Or are we then putting it back into investments and buying some more? Okay, next one, personal. I didn't even see that change then. Personal. Again, this is for you guys that are not necessarily in business, but are looking to manage your money from what you're getting from your salary, from your job, from everything else that's coming into you, okay? Again, you've got fixed costs, whether that's a mortgage, whether it's rent. You've got your bills to pay, you've got, it could be something to do with kids' education or schoolings and things like that, after school clubs. These are your fixed costs, okay? Then you've got your variable reoccurring. You might not spend the same on your food bills every time that you go to the supermarket. There could be different expenses where you've got school trips, for example, and you've got to cover that off for the kids, but then that only comes up for 3 months of the year. For the other 9 months, that doesn't happen. You can always guarantee that they always come at once, though, and sting you again. It's like everybody's birthdays all in the same month, all of the expenses needed in the same month. This is where you've got to consider this pot for, because this is interchangeable the whole time. Again, 10% personal development. Just because you're not in business doesn't mean to say that you can't upskill yourself. We generally work with just business owners and entrepreneurs. We do work with just individuals who are looking to better themselves, improve their mindset, improve everything that they're doing on a daily basis so that they can be the best vibrant self, so that you're the best mom or dad or parent or partner. There's nothing saying that personal development is just for people in business. This is okay for you to, get into this pot as well and get into that realm of wanting more and needing more. 15% fun times. We all want fun times, but this has to be managed. Again, Lauren said, we're not being the fun police. We want you to have fun. I call this my play pot. And I always know exactly what I've got to spend on a monthly basis from my personal expenditure. That comes in as income through a business setup, like what I've just showed you on the other screen there. Okay, but then where it comes in as profit and savings, that comes into me as a salary payment. Then in another business structure, it comes in as a dividend payment. I then put that into a salary, as I would do in an employed role, and say, right, okay, this is what I've got to cover for my personal mortgage, for my ongoing costs here, for my personal development myself, and my play part. Okay, not necessarily any profit and savings out of that, because that's all quantified through the limited company structures. But for you, like on the last webinar, we asked people what their main goals were. A lot of that came around, you know, wanting to buy a new car, wanting to upgrade the house, wanting to buy a house and get on the property ladder. Some people had said that their goals were they wanted to save in the next 5 years so they could start buying investments themselves, investment properties, second, third properties that they can start receiving an income from. So therefore, we have to plan for this through our income split. When you get your salary payment or your pay slip on a monthly or weekly basis, we have to plan for this. You can't then just sit there at home talking with your significant other or your family or your friends around the pub or whatever saying, yeah, I'm hoping to get another property in the next 12, 24 months, but then doing absolutely jack shit about saving to do that. Okay, this is where we need to be smart and understand that if we make that decision and say, yeah, okay, straight away, as soon as my salary comes in, I'm sidelining that, ready for my bigger goal of putting it to what I want to achieve. New car, new property, whatever it is. Okay, are you letting your schedule or agenda or your priorities dictate your cash flow? What we mean by that is everything in terms of your cash flow, okay, is that then determined by how much social elements have you got booked in? I've said about birthdays, I've said about responsibilities, social lives, significant others. Is all of that saying what then your numbers are through that financial graph that we've just showed you? Is that dictating your cash flow? Because if it is, it's sucking it, it's draining it. What we want to do is make sure you're looking at the cash flow splits, understanding what your income is, what you want to achieve from it, and then that dictates your schedule. So then you're in control of saying yes or no. Okay? Cool.
Sorry, unmuting there. Okay, so I think you're getting the gist of where we're going with this. This one here is about knowing your numbers. So the language that we use around finances can sometimes just sound like jargon, and it can often just sound like words that we've inherited or words that we've just, maybe heard or used in our professional terms or in God knows where. But knowing your numbers, is the biggest thing about getting started with this whole focus on managing your money and then growing your wealth. The thing that I would ask you to do next is look at these statements that we've got on the screen here now and asking yourself, when you look at that ratio of split, is it a cost or is it an investment? Is that expense something that's fixed or is it something that's variable? So it might, as I alluded to before, it might be fixed right now, but it might be something that can become a variable expense further down the line, maybe looking at a better contract, a better negotiation, whatever it may be that comes with it. Looking then at with your numbers, do I actually get a return on this investment or do I get any return on my effort and time? So especially when we are people who, if you're building a business and you're building a life for yourself, it's, obviously you care about it and you give a shit. But actually looking at it and going, the time that I'm putting into these things or the money that I'm putting into these things, is it giving me the return that I want? So if you kind of, reverse engineer it and go back and say, maybe I'm putting, let's say just for easy numbers, maybe I'm putting £100 every single week into networking and into trying to make leads and contacts. Does that actually then give me a return, or am I just investing my money and my time and getting zero back from it? Do you know your numbers about the money that you're putting in and what it's giving you back? Do you know the cost of every sale? So again, a really easy one for us all to get our head around here is that if that sale, for example, is colouring a client's hair, do I know the cost of my time? Do I know the cost of my products? Do I know the cost of the preparation? And is that reflected then in the price and the charge that I have for people? Again, professional, whether you are employed or whether you are self-employed, do you know your price per hour? And do you know your price per day? Like, do you know your value? Because I tell you what, when we work that out, sometimes you would really think twice about spending most of the day scrolling through stuff on Facebook of people you don't like, of people who you don't want to know anything about. Because if your unit cost, and that's what I'm saying in terms of that cost of sale, put that language back into everyday life, is that this is the cost of my time with my children or in my business. This is the cost of my time on my investment, on my holiday, or whatever that goal and that dream is that you have. Or is it, putting it on stationery bills and put it in on contracts that I just haven't reviewed in a long time? It's basically tracking your KPIs And again, for those of you who are employed, that'll be something that you'll have heard. I've come from a corporate background where we love reporting. I'm like, we could just plaster the wall with paper with reports for the sake of reports. But it's actually a case of, am I tracking that KPI, and then am I making good decisions for them? Again, if you look at what your reports are, the biggest report that you have is your bank account. The biggest report that you get is your savings account. The biggest report that you have is your credit card bill. Am I tracking my actual key performance indicators? And then am I looking at it, and is it coming back, and is it helping me with the goal, and is it getting me to where I want to be? Okay, so the benefits of managing your money. We don't mean to sound like we're sucking eggs here, but sometimes it just becomes so far of the priority that you actually think, well, isn't it just normal to be stressed around money? Isn't it normal to not want to have these conversations? Isn't it normal to not open the post when it comes in and see if that credit card bill will just disappear itself? The benefits of when you start taking leaps forward in your business and in your personal life, the confidence is just unreal. It's basically the confidence that there's no surprises. I know there's a lot of people on this webinar tonight who've got kids, and when your kid tells you they're scared of the dark, and you're like, you're not scared of the dark. You're scared of what you can't see in the dark. You're scared of the fact there might be someone behind your bed with a mask on and a big samurai sword. That's what you're actually scared of. You're not scared of the dark itself. You can tell I'm not a parent. You don't say that shit to kids when they go to bed. I do realise that. But what they're scared of, their lack of confidence, is that they don't know what's there. So if you look into your life and look at how that affects your business, look how it affects your relationships, look how it affects the fun and the joy that you have. Because if your confidence is, I guarantee you, if you are not managing your money and you don't feel like you've got a handle on it, or you feel like, you want to hide with the boogeyman because it's safer there than in your bank account, then your confidence will be affected. The next thing is control. And again, sometimes the word control has a negative connotation. But at the end of the day, we use that analogy before. You're driving the car. If you're not in control of it, someone's crashing into you. We ain't playing bumper cars here. This isn't Blackpool. We want to be in control of this, because it's something I didn't realise I said it a lot until people say, you do say that a lot. No one's coming to rescue us. No one's coming to sort this shit out. No one's coming to land it into your lap. Or if they are, you're a very rare occurrence. So having that control really fits back into all of this, that, it gives you that ability to sleep at night. It gives you that ability. Benita, I saw a really good question come up. When do you have the confidence to invest? You have confidence to invest in your business when you have continually mastered this habit of managing it. Because when we've avoided it for a long time, it becomes hard to invest and grow, because we become a scarcity mindset. We go, I can't give anything away because I might not have enough left for me. Whereas you look at anyone who's truly happy, and I'm not saying that money makes you happy, but when you are comfortable and confident and in control, it's because we know there's a world of abundance out there, and there's always going to be more that can come to us. The other big thing is having choices. I mentioned it there at the start, is that, will money make you happy, but not having it can make you sad. I think the main thing around that is managing your money gives you choice. I can choose whether I socialize. I can choose whether I invest. I can choose whatever it may be. I can choose which car I drive. I can choose which holiday I go on. If we're not managing our money, it's not down to us. It's down to the other person. It's like we're puppets and they're controlling us. Okay, a big one here, which is a bit woo-woo, but bear with me, is when you manage your money, you can align everything to your true values. So whatever your true values are, and if you've done a bit of work on this, great. If you've not, it's something that I can't recommend enough. But let me give you an example. Your value might be being, something that's important to you is to be a generous person. It might be in your value system that you want to give back to your, community, your church, your parish, whatever that may be. When you've managed your money, you can then align everything with your value system, because you have control and because you have choice. And the last thing I've got on there now is managing your money it allows you to grow. And there's a really famous quote by Tony Robbins, which isn't that the whole point? We all talk, what's the end goal in this? Running a business, running our lives, it's to be happy. But what gives us happiness is growth. Staying same, staying stuck, staying stood still. Often we don't ever really stay stood still. We're sliding backwards before we know it. So it doesn't mean that we have to be in the rat race. It doesn't mean we have to be chasing other people's wants and other people's needs, and societies must need a new iPhone, must need a new car. Again, try not to keep up with the Joneses. The Joneses are frigging broke, okay? But when you are growing, that gives you that happiness that you are growing. So here's the thing. Often we find when people think, I'm not going to bother managing my money, because what's the difference between me managing a £5 or a £10? Well, let's talk about compound, and let's talk about the effect of, taking small daily habits and small compound interest and making that run. So really simple to understand that the benefit benefit of your money is it puts it back in your hands. Okay, and the last bit from me before I hand over to Helen, where do we start? Okay, so you're like, right, Lauren, I'm with you. Helen, got you. We need ratio splits. So what do I do when I hang up on the phone? The first thing is data is absolutely everything. And it's the thing that so many of us, when we're not managing our income, and as I said at the beginning, me and Helen, neither of us got this right first time. I was the first person who was like, my bookkeeper's dealing with it. My accountant's dealing with it. I'm outsourcing that to someone else. Because when shit goes wrong and when it all went tits up, guess who had to pay the bill? Want the bookkeeper, want the accountant. It wasn't them who didn't get to go on their, on their investments that they wanted. It was me. So arm yourself with the data. I use this one all the time, and it's a really simple one. With your bank statements, download them from your banking website, not from the app, but from your desktop via Excel. It's my best money tip I give everyone, because if you have never done that, you'll find it so much easier, and it's also a massive reality check. So your business banking, your personal banking, download your statements in Excel. You've got the data there. There's no hiding from it. Next thing is do forgive yourself. Again, might sound a bit woo-woo, might sound a bit fluffy, but if you have never made a mess of this, I seen a great one the other day. If you've never made a mess of money, it means you're 12. If you have, it means you're an adult. Well done. We're all here and we're all in the same boat. So forgive yourself. If you're just beating yourself up about this stuff, all you're going to do is beat yourself up and you're going to be sliding back in a mudslide. Okay, set an immediate goal. Like no messing about on this one. No arsing about. Set an immediate goal. Now that goal doesn't need to be a bloody holiday house in Portugal. It doesn't need to be, a Lambo or whatever you might float your boat. Your goal might be, again, don't make the goal stupid, but your goal might be, I need to assess my variable expenses and I need to do it by Sunday night. That's the goal. Crack on with it. Then break down the steps. So let's say that you go, I don't know where my money leakage is. I'm looking at that colander and I'm thinking, I wonder where my money's leaking out of my business and out of my life. Download your statements in Excel, pop them into data, and then just look, anything that's going under 15 or 20 quid, there's your leaks. There's your variable expenses. If it's not on direct debit, then it's a variable expense. If it's a point of sale, if it's a contactless, if it's an Apple Pay, if it's a Samsung Pay, there's your bad boys, okay? So break down the steps and know what you need to do. And then the next thing is get help, get education, get support. If we all knew how to do this, then we'd all be doing it. We mentioned it there at the start, we don't get taught this shit in school. Most of us don't get taught this. I was very lucky. I was in an industry where we were mentored, and possibly to a negative effect. I just presumed someone else would do it for me. There's very few parts of our life where someone is going to come and grab you by the hand and do this with you and do it for you. But get help, get education, get support. This is exactly, the fact that you're here tonight is speaking volumes and it's brilliant. But 60 minutes with me and Helen, if you guys are 25, 35, 45, 55, if it's taken 10, 20, 30 years to build these habits, 60 minutes on a webinar with us ain't going to unpick them. So get help, get support, and keep learning on it. Over to you, Bud.
Awesome, thank you. Actions then, what to watch out for. Knowing versus doing. You might all be nodding along saying, yeah, okay, yeah, I know that. That's me, owning that shit. Okay, that's great, but that's only part of the equation. Your knowledge is not enough. It has got to come down to the application now and the doing the do. Okay, communicate this, communicate it with yourself, communicate it with those around you, share it with who you need to be keeping accountable. If you've got a business partner, discuss it. Okay, if you've got a life partner, husband, wife, respective other, discuss it, communicate it, be in it together. Okay, show what you are wanting to do, share what you are wanting to do, okay, and how you're going to do it and where you need the support. Okay, and on here, actions speak volumes. Okay, we all know that actions speak louder than words. Okay, that's exactly what this is saying. Lead by example. Okay, be the one that's taking the baton and running forward and saying, this is what I'm doing. Okay, take responsibility. If you're in business, even at home, for example, let's not just say it's for business. There's a lot of private people on here that is looking at it from a personal point of view. Be the culture. Be the culture of change. Set that tone. That's what it's all about. You know, somebody has to change something, because let's face it, we are where we are now because we've done what we've been doing and still doing. So something has to then change. Okay, frustration is guaranteed. You're not going to get it right. You're not going to see changes and be like flowing in money and attracting money into your life overnight. You will get frustrated with it. It's a process, but stay in the game. Again, reflect back to what you want to do, why you want to do it, what those emotional goals are, those anchors that you've set, and stick in there. Okay, learn to just suck it up when it comes to the frustration. And then here with the tire slashing, take your car. If you've got one puncture, why are you going to just get out, get in a huff, and then start slashing the other three? Okay, it's a case of, again, suck it up, get on with it, change it, and carry on your journey. Okay, learn from your mistakes, learn from you know, the process. It's not a failure if something is a temporary fuck up. Okay, what is going round and slashing the entire journey. Okay, and putting all of your tires out of action, because that's what you're doing to yourself. It's self-sabotage. Okay, so be aware of that behavior. So don't overcomplicate it then. Okay, this is your basic toolkit here. You know, we're not going to go into all of the apps and all of the, you know, fancy spreadsheets that you can be creating and all of that. We've not got chance on this webinar. You know, we've said it's a 60-minute webinar. Start with the basics here. Start with your banking app. Make sure that it's on there. Be checking it every day. Be comfortable with checking it every day. Set it as a goal and a task to be checking it every day. Even if it's in minus figures, check it every day. Be used to having that visibility and that relationship with it. Okay, again, it's not saying, you know, that you need to be in the negative state with it. You are now taking that empowerment from saying, shit's changing around here. Okay, you've got to get from that negative to get into the positive. We've got a client on here tonight who, I can't remember the exact figure, so he will slap me for that, but it's around £30,000 worth of debt we cleared from him doing all of what we'd said about the mindset, the personal development, and all of this management basic stuff in terms of managing your money, being on target with your finance splits, your income splits, and being disciplined to the core. Okay, because he had his goal in place. He's now in a totally different space in life, in business, in career, and just going onwards and upwards. He had to come from that place. It didn't keep him there. Like I said, it's not a place of residence. We go forward. Okay, review everything, categorize everything going forward, whether that is your your spreadsheets, whether it's, you know, your performance apps, anything that you use that works for you currently, or you're starting from scratch. Review it, categorize it, keep an eye on it. And the thing is, here for scheduling, a lot of people don't like the word scheduling because they feel as though it's a to-do list. Like I've just said, if it's your banking app, look at it every day. It is putting it onto a to-do list, yeah. But what I've just said again to somebody today in a session is, don't look at your to-do list as a chore list. Okay, if you've got a to-do list, it means that you're keeping busy. It means that you're being proactive. It means that you know that you're doing stuff and that you're going forward. In business, reframe that as your opportunity list. And for your finances, reframe it again from your finance to-do list to the fact that you're giving yourself the opportunity to go into your accounting house, because that's exactly what you're doing. You're in control, remember. You categorize it however you want. Make sure that you're reframing it into a positive light. Okay? Lauren's put on here, breathe. That means to say that we've just gone rah at you with a load of content and a load of being on our soapbox telling you, you know, what we're really, really passionate about and what we want everybody to take action on. So take a quick breather. We're not
usually a reminder for me.
Not taking a break or any toilet breaks on this one anyway, because we're wrapping it up. But what's next? Okay, it's all about acting now. There's been a couple of comments in the text box, in the chat box, about you know, what is needed, and it is all about doing it now. Start small, however small it is, even if it's £1 a day. Okay, that is your difference, but that difference is going to compound from, you know, from £1 a day to however many by the end of the year. Okay, keep doubling it, keep up with that discipline, and see what that brings you. Okay, getting started is the most important thing. Okay, we're not aiming for perfection here, we're aiming for progress. That's all that matters, is getting started and putting one step in front of the other, irrelevant of where you are. Okay, if it's going from your first 100 grand to your second 100 grand, or it's going from your first £1 to your second £1, it's irrelevant. The process is still the same. All that changes is the numbers, the amount of zeros on the end, where the decimal place is, and then your mindset around how you manage that. Okay, we've said about posting and tagging HEW. I've not been able to keep track with the amount of everybody that's been tagging us on Instagram, so that's amazing. So it's all showing positive that you're wanting to be in with a chance to win the prizes that Lauren mentioned at the beginning. And if you need any more help, there's been a couple of things that people have said about, you know, overcoming fear, for example, around investments. Reach out to us, discuss it with us. We'll have consultations with you one-on-one if you know, you want to speak about something that's personal to you and personal to your business and financial goals. They're available to you, 30 minutes, free consultation calls as well. We're happy to do that. However, off the back of this, because it's been a rather whistle-stop tour, I'm sure you can agree, and you're no doubt exhausted by it all as well. I know that me and Lauren will be, is managing your money. We've got the online workshop. This is next week, Tuesday and Wednesday evenings. It's over 2 nights. You do need to be available for both nights. It's not an either or, it's a 2 nights, because this is the amount of context and the amount of theory and practical tasks that we have in here for you getting working on your goals is what we would have covered in a day workshop face-to-face in venue. Okay, but because it's online, we split it over 2 nights so that it's more manageable and more digestible for you, your energy, and it's not quite the same when you're trying to get 5 hours worth of content into these little screens when we're looking at, like, what, 2-inch screens of each other's faces. So yeah, managing your money next week, 7th and 8th of July. It's 49 quid. That's how much that investment's going to cost you for that. Here, we used this in the last webinar and it really hit home. £49, right? We're telling you and advising you and giving you tips on how to manage your money. Okay, but if £49 is something that you would just swipe off on Amazon, ASOS, Just Eat, you know, not having that tracking of it, then I'm sure you can obviously put that into your personal development, business development element as well. Okay, put it into perspective. You can get a takeaway. I ordered a takeaway a couple of weekends ago. It was 36 quid and the food came and I'm like, well, that was shit. It was just like, what's the point? Think about where things are going and put it in and you know, focus it on what you want to be getting out of it. Okay.
You didn't order a curry, did you, H? That's where you went wrong.
No, I didn't order it. It was some Italian chicken place that had been recommended. I shan't be rushing back anyway.
Rookie.
Absolutely. I really am. Anyway, thank you ever so much, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure spending our evenings with you. And, you know, I'm sure you could have had 1,000,001 things to be doing this evening at home with your families, with your loved ones, and maybe flicking through Netflix or spending your money on ASOS, who knows. But all I can say is, you've done the right thing in taking an hour out to look at what's important, because let's face it, money is important. You know, whatever your goals are, doesn't matter. Big, small, fucking massive, right? Money makes the world go round in that respect, because you need it. You need it to put the electricity through your pipes. You need it to be on your Wi-Fi to be tuning in for this now, and you need it for you and your family's futures as well. So you've done the right thing. Now let's get started with all the action off the back of that. Any questions, stick them in the chat box. If you're just disappearing one by one, that's absolutely fine. Thank you so much. Unmute yourselves if you want to say anything. If you want to shout any questions out, we are here available as well. Lauren, do you want to finish up?
You did a grand job, mate. Grand job. For anyone who's our second time webinar, we never use the phrase spunking money. which I'm talking about, to be honest, that Helen never managed to get that one in. Also, the reference to Grey Gooses, we did refer to people who spent money on a Grey Goose bottle for their Insta, but wouldn't think about looking at their bank statement sober. I mean, like, me. So, like I say, listen, we're all here, we're all human. None of us have got this right first time. If anyone has got this right first time, honestly, I massively salute you. And I just think it's a subject. It gets me geekily excited because I think, especially at the moment, there's just a load of fear. I think there's a lot of fear mongering going on. People are saying, oh, you know, this is going to happen, and you know, this is going to happen in the economy, and this is going to happen in the job market, and this is going to happen in businesses. And at the end of the day, there's opportunity wherever there's opportunity. And if we can keep our heads cool and we can keep our money managed, I'm not saying that there isn't going to be people whose businesses are going to be affected. Of course, you know, we've all been affected. But if we've got a handle on stuff, then that's what I'm saying about that confidence and that clarity and our emotions and that fear. When you've got a handle on stuff, it's also one of the best bits of business advice I was given is not to upgrade your fixed cost to the point that you can't ever respond to changes. So if you overextend yourself, whether it be on business premises, on staffing costs, whether it be on, you know, your mortgage, on your car lease or whatever that may be, if you overextend yourself on fixed costs, you cannot adapt to change. But if you can look at yourself as an individual and as a business and go, fixed costs, I know no matter what, you know, I can make sure they're covered and I can make sure then I retain my profit. But again, if you're in this mindset of fear and scarcity, you know what I mean, just stick around for the ride with us, because we're not people who avoid reality. We're not people who don't say there might be hard times to come. But you know what? Tough times last. Tough times don't last. Tough people do. And it's the same thing, is that everyone's got to make a buck. There's always money rolling around this economy. There's always businesses doing well. There's people pivoting. There's people changing. And then there's people under duvets who are shitting themselves because they don't want to open their bank statement. So you've got to pick which side of the camp you're in. And if, you know, again, I hope that doesn't sound in any way aloof. You know, again, we hold a hand up. All of our businesses have been affected by, you know, the last 3-4 months. But what it's done, it's just made us more focused and more determined to make sure that we help people in